Episode of the Field of 68 Best Bets show presented by BetRivers. We are the three-man weave here to talk you through another awesome day in college hoops. And my video is turned off. Oh no.
Where'd he go? Guys, come back, Kai.
I got to get it back. Struggling. Hey, you know what?
To see your face. Your face is not relevant.
While I work on this, I'm going to pass to Jim for a takeaway from yesterday. Jim, what do you got?
I'd love to give you a takeaway. Kai, I was impressed by SMU. Our pal Jared Burson from ESPN had the stat, Matt. Do you know this? Houston has never lost under Kelvin Sampson when they shoot 50% or better from the field until last night. They shot 54% and SMU still beat them, as the chat mentioned, came back from down 13. That small ball lineup was very potent offensively, Matt, and they went 1-3-1 zone in the second half, and it kind of messed with Houston. They were going to get beat up on the glass either way, so changing defenses was definitely worthwhile. Right. Kai or Matt, do you have a takeaway? Well, Matt is still, or Kai's still in the cave.
I do. I have two, but just to comment on the Houston thing, shocked that SMU was able to go punch for punch with them when Houston was just on fire. Like usually that's the cheat code for Houston. If they're actually making shots, they're basically invincible. But SMU, I mean, loved seeing King Kendrick, our Messiah, just attack off the dribble. Pretty emphatically there in transition, trying to get some early offense. Loved it. Happy for Tim Yankovic. Happy for Pony Express Nation, baby. We're back. Two quick takeaways. Overtime, we need to cancel it. I told Rob and Jeff offline.
Screw overtime.
We're canceling overtime. Just draws are fine. We have draws in the Premiership League. We have draws in soccer all over the world. We don't need to play overtime in the regular season. So takeaway one. Two, Harvard. Very disappointing. Maybe the biggest game in Tommy Amaker's coaching career, like the last few seasons, I want to say. You just lost to Yale, and now you have Yale coming back to your building. You have to win that game to stay in the Ivy League tournament hunt. And they're not, I don't think, mathematically eliminated quite yet, but that's a huge blow. And it was a really sad effort, a game that basically never were competitive with. So Yale owns Harvard, and James Jones is better than Tommy Amaker.
Yeah, Matt, there's a chance Harvard doesn't even make the Ivy tournament. Cornell's,
I think they're basically
it's trouble for them. Yeah,
they have to win out or close to, and they're going to need some help too. Yeah, that's tough. Very upset by Harvard.
All right. I'm not sure we're getting Kai back. He's having some issues. So, Matt, let's just get into the outline. Let's do it without him. We don't need him. It's fine. Let's start with the big one in the Big Ten. This is Arizona at Purdue at Michigan. That's Big Ten. How dare you? Matt, I actually wrote this up at Action Network. So I have some takes. I have some stats here, but I'm going to go to you first. How are you looking at this game?
I think the line's a little bit too high. I believe this game just closed, 8.5 or 9 when they played not even a week ago. When was that game played again?
Saturday.
Yeah, it's over the weekend. So just from a pure handicapping lens, looking at it like that, I do like Michigan with the number, but I worry that Purdue maybe unlocked a new level, a new gear with the Jaden Ivey thing. So I guess that is to say my current number and power rating with Purdue may not fully incorporate that, which is Jaden Ivey just being a superhero, invincible, Super Mario star cheat code type of thing. That's my concern. I think Michigan's the right bet here, but I'm staying away because I was jaw on floor watching Ivey go to work in the second half against a pretty vaunted Illinois defense.
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I think the unlocking of the gear. I mean, since he went back in the starting lineup, Ivey is at 23, 7, and 6. That's what he's averaging. Like, he's absolutely destroying. Him and ball screen has been terrific. And I think Hunter Dickinson defending ball screens is tough. He's not great in space. So the fact that Painter's going to that more, I think makes Purdue a little bit more lethal. Matt, what I'm looking at here is the swing on the total. The first game only had 65 possessions. The total was 145.5. It opened 150. It's been bet down to 145, been hammered back to where the first game was. So I guess people are sort of buying into the fact that one was too high. But do they still score that efficiently? That's my question to you. Do you think that number moving that way is correct? Betting Purdue unders is terrifying.
It is terrifying. And I think they usually I feel like Purdue first half unders are a better bet. That's completely anecdotal, but it seems like they've been running more in the second half. When they either have a bigger lead and they let off the gas pedal defensively, it's the game tends to open up, and that's when Ivey has basically no limitations. He just kind of starts going pinball up and down the floor, as we saw a little bit against Illinois last game. So maybe you look at that as a first half under, second half over type of split. Yeah, I bet the Big Ten unders, you're right, Jim. It looks like they're all good, and then there's these weird scoring bursts that I can't really handicap, or I've had trouble handicapping, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like teams want to slow them down. They know they need to keep them out of transition. So that's what happens in the first half. And then in the second half, they're like, we're still losing by 8. We got to start scoring somehow. And then it starts to, like you said, pinball up and down. Matt, I don't know if you're seeing the actual YouTube feed, but we've got just a real handsome picture of professional Kai filling the third void.
This up right now. Let me see this.
Yeah, so it's you, me, and then a gentlemanly Kai grinning at our chat mob.
I hope it's old Ian Y like professional mugshot picture that we all got dressed up for. That was always fun.
I believe that's the one.
Kind of off center.
Yeah, that's good. All right, let's keep moving down the outline, Matt. I almost said this game accidentally before, but we're going way west. Arizona at Washington State, that is. Matt, this feels a lot like Houston at SMU to me. It's a team that has been good enough to be talked about as a bubble team in Washington State, catching about a touchdown at home, and now they're taking on a 1 to 2 seed caliber team that hasn't actually have the biggest wins on their resume. So do you think Wazoo gets the big one it needs to actually put something on their resume and get in the bubble conversation?
Torn on this one. Clearly, the market seemed to think Arizona runs roughshod over them. It opened at 5.5 or 6, been bet up to 7, depending on where you saw the opening line. So, yeah, laying a touchdown on the road at Pullman, tough place to travel to, especially with how good this Wazoo team is, Jim, or how big this Wazoo team is. What is your take on the strength for strength, right? So, I mean, Washington State, on one hand, has the size to combat Arizona, but then on the other hand, that's basically Washington State's only or usual edge, and that's going to be negated and then some by Arizona. So I guess, you kind of can skin that cat 2 different ways.
Yeah. I mean, Arizona, I've talked about it in other places. They're going with the double giant combo line or jumbo lineup with Ballo and Coloco more often. So yeah, I think it's going to be a major battle on the boards, but they mostly neutralize each other. It comes down to the wing and the guard playing that. And Krisa has been good, but erratic for Arizona.
For sure. Yes.
And him on the road is a lot less trustworthy than him at home when he's feeding off the crowd and kind of getting that confident, borderline cocky energy going. So I'm a little concerned there. Do you think Washington State zones? I guess that's something you could do against Arizona State. Their shooting has not, or against Arizona, their shooting has not been incredible. And when you have Dalen Terry out there and 2 bigs that can't shoot, you're a little limited. So maybe spacing is an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I think you will see some mix and match defense from Kyle Smith. And I think that actually makes me like the under. I'm not really sure if it's going to work to the degree that Washington State can cover 7, just because I think Arizona that's that good. But you look at the USC game, played to 63 possessions. They lost by 2 at home. That was way back on December 4th. And this Washington State offense is playing much better but I think the way that game played out, Kyle Smith knowing that to keep this game close, he's going to have to limit possession. He's going to have to try and mix it up defensively. Probably bodes well for the under. And again, they have the horses up front to prevent a complete bloodbath at the rim that we saw Arizona just, basically bully their in-state rival just last game. That was tough.
Matt, last thing before we move on. Do you know what Washington State is ranked at Bart Torvik right now? Full season.
My final comment was going to be Washington State and St. Mary's are 2 kind of analytic surgers that no one's talking about. I'm going to guess 25th, 20th,
17th.
Wow.
17th. Yeah. They have
data rate, baby.
Up there.
Data rate is coming.
Yep. Just lacking those top of the line wins. That's what they need right now.
Yeah. And this is it. Tonight's it.
All right, Matt, let's talk your Blue Devils. Let's go down to ACC country. They're heading to Clemson. I feel like this is perceived as a house of horrors for the Blue Devils, but they're 6-4 straight up and against the spread in their last 10 there. Now Clemson's won 3 of the last 4. That's part of the concern. But an interesting fact here, Matt, Clemson's basically been a home dog every time they play Duke, but every time they've covered, they've won. They have not kept it close and snuck inside the number. So you're basically picking the winner here.
Ooh,
do you think the Blue Devils get upset?
So I guess you're saying you should bet Clemson money line or you lay the points with Duke.
That's kind of, yeah. In the last 10, there has not been a game that landed in that dog window.
I need our guy Rusty Hainline's take on the Devils at Little John. It is a house of horrors, just anecdotally dating way back, even before those last 5 or 6 seasons. I think Duke bounces back and smokes them. So, I mean, I didn't take Duke against Virginia because I was worried about the coaching mismatch and the fact that Virginia's style is a pretty solid kryptonite, especially to thwart Duke's offense. But you're going to see these volatile game-to-game efforts and performances from Duke, right? I think you're going to see a lot of like the holy shit Duke, holy shit Duke, holy shit Duke, or in between littered with what the hell is Duke doing? Why are they not playing there's where they lose sort of their offense. There's no continuity. There's no real clear direction of what we're doing. But I think you bet on the upswing here. You bet on a little bit of a pop from Blue Devils on the road.
Yeah, I wrote down Duke games are mostly about Duke, like whether they're going to be high level.
They dictate it. Yes.
Yeah. Especially like against Clemson without Tyson, I think that's concerning. Virginia came in, very mature team, very much a plan to slow the game down. I'm not sure Clemson's going to have that same kind of structure to them and resilience if Duke makes a run. So I'm leaning towards Duke the highest, even though they are on the road at Little John. All right, next one before we hit chat mob. I know, Matt, you're probably scrambling like me to try to manage.
I'm doing it right now, baby. I'm trying to catch up. Jesus, Chatter. Love you guys, but slow it down.
I will go on a monologue for you then. Give you a second.
Talk about your entire childhood.
We've got Iowa at Maryland here. I was a little bit surprised. Iowa's definitely an analytics darling. They're up to 20th in KenPom, 23rd in Bart Torvik. And it doesn't feel like they're playing that well. So I filtered Bart Torvik for only playing top 100 opponents. So taking out the blowouts from previous early in the season. And I was only 51st. That feels a little more accurate to me. Maryland's 84th in that same metric. So if you're giving Maryland some home, which I think they deserve in College Park, this feels more like a pick'em game to me, Matt. So you're getting the home dog. Anything 3 or more, I think it's decent value for the Terrapins. I'm not sure if you agree. It sounds like you do.
I do. Okay. No, I'm on Maryland +4. I'm with you. I made my number. I was like, I don't love Maryland, and I've been sort of throwing shade at their lack of home court juice, but that's been sort of negated in the last few games. It seems like they've had a pretty strong crowd. But and then an open 4 is like, I don't think that's disrespectful, I think, to Maryland and Iowa, who's just not been as dominant away from Iowa City. I think Maryland's a pretty good bet here tonight. I think this is kind of the dog days of conference play where the big conference home courts should start to play pretty strong, especially in a good spot. And Maryland, I still respect this roster, man. Like, I know we kind of look at this through a Danny Manny prism. It's sort of a lame duck type of season given the coaching change, but this roster is still pretty damn good. And it's one certainly capable of beating Iowa on their home floor.
Yeah, I mean, road Iowa is not as scary. It's just not. The first match.
Also, McCaffrey is a game time decision, correct? Did we mention that? Okay.
Yeah, which he's. I looked at the on-off splits, and he's big for the under. Like he's obviously not as good of a shooter, and defensively he's pretty versatile. So when he's not on the floor, it definitely helps Iowa's scoring. Makes them a little bit more of an over team. So keep an eye on that one as well. I think Maryland will try to slow it down, make it a half-court game. That's more than Manning prerogative, but without McCaffrey, I would actually lean towards over. Keep an eye on that. All right, Matt, let's get into chat mob questions. It seems like Kai has abandoned us. He's not even hanging out in the chat anymore.
Forget him.
Sad.
Forget him.
All right, let's hit some questions. You can dish some to me and take some yourself. We'll get it covered.
Yeah, let's spoil a late ad best bet. Sorry, Jim, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but it's a best bet of a fellow mobster, Patty Taylor, who is up to 7-1 so far. So we appreciate locks via the chat mob forum. He likes ISU Blue, as our esteemed friend on the Twitter sphere, Jordan Majeski, calls them. Indiana State laying 4, little back-to-back against the Purple Aces. Embarrassing, I would say, last effort out. They are fully healthy. I think we all agree they smack them in the return trip, correct?
Yeah, I'm with Pat here. I'm with you. I think -4 is a great bet. I'm going one of my best bets here. I have 3 today. So let's go ISU Blue. I was on them in the first game, Matt. They were 0 for 17 from 3. Neither team had an offensive rebound. It was a really weird game. And afterwards, Schertz, the coach of Indiana State, said, I've been coaching for 24 years, and I have never been this disappointed. I think he's going to have them locked in for an immediate rematch. They're laying a small number to a not good team that could be shorthanded. I'm with them. Sycamores, -4.
Yep, all the way with you. Just dropping his own best bets as well. He said Maryland is one of his. Also throw at USC Upstate, Jim. Now, I've shirked the extra board. Line open at 8.5. It's down to 7.5. What do you think?
That line feels about right to me, but situationally, USC Upstate, there is kind of like their home run. Let's take on the undefeated team in the conference. So maybe they play up a little bit. And the big question is Longwood's lineup. They had some injury issues last game, and arguably their 2 best players. So if Hill and Leslie N, if those guys are both out, then I think you probably do have a nice edge there on Upstate.
Eddie Redmond asking about Georgia State. Why are they favored? They opened as a short dog. Now they've been bet up to favored. I'll be honest, Ed, I like Georgia State. I think it's a decent spot for them. But I did not take it because the early money beat me to it. So I'm on the sidelines. I do think it's the right side. Are you on this, Jim?
I am not. Georgia State drives me nuts watching them play. It is just a cavalcade of mid-range bad jumpers. The guards are like, it's my turn. It's your turn. It's my turn. And I don't think that's really the best process. Coastal's going to change defenses on them. Numerically, I sort of lean Georgia State because I just am sort of waiting on them to get back to their preseason expectations, but I've backed off on backing them. I wish you well.
Thank you. I will need that good fortune. Tooch, our guy asked about Mercer, VMI. First game, these two teams played 97-91. Defense was highly optional and both teams opted out. So VMI back at home. And VMI is a decent home court. Actually, it's kind of goes against what you might think for a team that doesn't draw a huge crowd, but I respect that home court, Jim. It opened at 5. It's been bet down pretty heavily to 3. I would endorse Mercer, but can't at the current price. Thoughts? Yeah,
I think you and Kai had the Mercer lean here, and I was a little more lukewarm. I haven't been as high on Mercer this year, and Alvarez still not back to full strength. Their point guard situation's not that strong, but they did kind of control that game against Chattanooga. They went to overtime, should have absolutely won that game. So perhaps they are trending back up, and I wish you well again.
Yeah, Mercer and East Tennessee State to a more severe extreme. Just don't. They've blown
Mercer,
a lot of leads.
Kai says Mercer in the chat. Go Bears.
Yay. Kai, we miss you, man. We hope you're doing okay with your technical difficulties. But yeah, Mercer and East Tennessee State in general, I find them slightly undervalued because they do blow lots of leads, but that also makes them not as fun to bet on. So that can be a double-edged sword. Matthew Akers asking about Georgia Southern versus App State. This is Matthias's, my best bet of the evening. Currently sitting at 6.5. I bet on App State a lot early in the season. Found myself frustrated and unimpressed with their defense and their consistency, so I did downgrade them. Sure enough, they've been on a tear lately. However, I think laying a touchdown to Georgia Southern, even though they're at home, is a little bit too much. Georgia Southern's solid. I know they have a key injury question mark with Trey Cobbs, who's a vaunted defender, but they're deep. They're pretty well coached. Former Chris Beard assistant. I've been a little bit more impressed with them from what I've seen in conference play. I just think it's too many for, Sunbelt's not like the MAAC with parity and sort of unpredictability, but it is a league where I think if you're catching too many points, it's a pretty good spot to back dog. So this one fits into that mold. Go Georgia Southern on the road.
You said that's your best bet, right?
Best bet for me. So we've already revealed 2 of our best bets, and we've also revealed 2 mobster best bets. So jot them all down, folks. They're flying in hot here. Domehawk asking about Towson versus Bill and Mary, a ultimate cover your eyes bet, right, Jimmy? Not to spoil our takes here, but we like the dog and we don't love it.
It just feels too high to me. I mean, almost 20 points. It's come down a bit, so people are kind of back in that similar side. But gosh, Towson's been really good. It's not really exciting to take a dog against them because they can go nuts from deep. When Timberlake and Gibson are hot, they're they're top level offense in that league. I just think it's too many. Towson's played a bunch of good games lately, and William and Mary's been feisty. They've been much better in league play than they were in non-conference, so it's too many.
Yeah, Terry Nolan does return tonight for Towson, so that does concern me. But Towson has been without him for a while. They've been playing very well. I actually like the angle of betting against key guys returning after a long layoff. They tend to be more
they
rusty.
Try to integrate him.
Yeah, and also you probably get an extra point of value. People betting on the injuries. Again, guys, we said it before. Bet against those injury moves. Players don't matter. Sorry.
After the move, of course.
After the move. Yeah, wait for the move, of course. Because I did that incorrectly with Richmond. I kind of thought the Oduro news was in the line. It wasn't, and that actually moved to +3. So hopefully if anyone followed our best bet last night, you waited all the way till the end. I did not. Big fat loser for me. Connor Platt asking about Citadel, UNC, Greensboro. Jim, thoughts? I kind of think Greensboro smacks him. Feels like a men versus the boys type of situation, especially with the way Greensboro's been playing lately.
Yeah, I guess they have been a little better. I mean, Citadel, Hayden Brown is still maybe a little bit limited. He is playing, he is back, but they need him full go to compete. And Citadel's defense has been blown away recently. Gave up 102 to Furman, 93 to Samford. Granted, they won the Samford game, but I don't know. UNC Greensboro are going to try to slow it down. I got nothing on that one, Matt. I'm sorry.
Yeah, nothing either. All right, twofer from Ryan N. UT Arlington, University, Louisiana, Monroe. And then Hofstra Drexel. I don't really have a hot take on either. I did have a stronger take, I suppose, with Drexel. Jim got made Okros back the last 2 games. I think the Dragons are trending up. I do lean that way. Any thoughts on either of these two?
Wrong. I like Hofstra. Sorry, Matt.
Ooh, a little head-to-head here, Weaver. Okay.
I still think they're a little better. And Drexel, I don't know. They don't get me super amped when I watch them. Winter's great, but the supporting cast isn't wonderful. Hofstra's like they're playing a little bit better defensively. They're not playing that silly zone. I just don't totally understand their rotation with how Cooks and Ray are coming off the bench and not total key pieces.
That's true. And both of those spreads have not moved. So Monroe Arlington's sitting at pick and Hofstra still at -1. Hofstra and Monroe at home. Ryan Brownwood's asking another 2 for here, Jim. Stephen F. Austin, Chicago State, and Cal State Northridge, Cal Poly. I tend to lean Northridge, even though I'm sort of not a Poly guy, but I have backed Poly a few times this year. So by default, I'm going to call myself a Poly guy, but they should not be favored by really anyone in this conference.
6 points.
6.
Maybe it's 5.5. I think it's come down a little bit, but yeah.
Northridge has gotten healthier, right? Yeah. So I think Northridge is a pretty good dog bet here.
Felt too high. They get Bean. Yeah. Bean's been playing. AEC's back. Lean towards Northridge. What was the other one? Sorry.
Chicago State. I thought it felt too high. So they're at home. Stephen F. Austin traveling to Chicago.
Feisty, man. They
are feisty, but they do not handle the ball. And we saw them give it away on repeat. Was that at Abilene Christian?
Yeah, at Abilene. I think they turned it over like 15 times in the first 15 minutes, but they still came back and nearly won. So, yeah.
So I think ball security is your concern if you're back in Chicago State. But I think that's a big number. And team that can score. They got some horses this year. It's wild. Last one here, Dom the Dominator. And by last one, I mean the ones I actually copied down. I apologize. I think I missed like 50, so I apologize, mobsters, again. But Dom wants to talk BYU Loyola Marymount. The battle of 2 teams that are in complete disarray right now. In that sort of context, I tend to like the better coach team, which is Mark Pope and the Storm and Mormons. What say you?
Yeah, I'm at some point, I think BYU has to get back on track. I think the team is too good not to, but man, it's like betting on them right now feels ill-advised. Loyola Marymount hasn't been good either. As you mentioned, their identity has completely fallen off the map without Marcuson, the 7-2 guy last year that anchored their team. They're small. They don't guard very well this season. So it's a lean towards BYU, but Gary, I'm not betting it. So just so you know, just a lean.
Yeah, it's been bet down. Open BYU -8, now down to -7. That game is at LMU there in the LA area. Just a quick call out. I see Scott talking about this in the chatter. When we say lean, we have not officially bet it, but we like that. And
unless I say so. There are sometimes they're like, I'm leaning that way. I have bet this game.
And I have bet it. It's probably smaller. Yeah, so let's try and clarify when we're actually betting it or when we're not. But yeah, typically lean is like, hey, if you guys like a side and you're looking for our endorsement or cosign, then by all means, pull trigger.
This is an information show.
All right, Jim, back to the outline. Another monologue would be much appreciated so I can round up these the litany of inquiries here.
Man, I don't know if I have a monologue about Stanford, Oregon, but I'll see what I can do.
Yeah,
both teams that are fighting their way back to the light, trying to get into the bubble picture. Stanford's a little more distant. Their net ranking, all their analytical rankings is not that great, but their resume metrics, as our bracketology show will tell you, are actually pretty decent. They have them in spitting distance of the field. They have no bad losses. That's very helpful. I had to Oregon, who also has been playing quite well lately. I did a Bart Torvik filter since like mid-January the other day, I think, and Oregon's like 9th. They've been absolutely crushing teams, been way, way up there. What do we know? Dana Altman surging at the end of the season, not surprising. Stanford's big edge is their size. That's how they usually attack teams. They barrage you on the glass. They defend you with a ton of length. But Oregon shouldn't be totally intimidated by that. They've got a couple centers up front. Their guards are relatively big, especially Will Richardson. He's long. So I'm kind of leaning towards Oregon, Matt, despite looking at this price and kind of feeling sticker shock. Whoa, you have to win by double digits against a decent Stanford team. I had a lean towards Oregon there. What do you got?
Yeah, it does feel a little high. Like I said, sitting at -8 right now. The total is 140. Just as I first looked at this matchup, it seemed like it'd be a lower scoring game and thus made the spread feel a little bit high. But if this does get up and down, which Stanford is willing to go up and down, I think Oregon can drag them into pull them into more of an up and down type of pair, which would favor them, especially with the more prolific, better, superior talent, better shot making. I think Ducks is the right side, Jim. However, I guess I may be short selling Stanford's bubble-icious. I guess they're a bubble team, right? We'd call them just on the outside looking in.
Ooh, Oregon or Stanford?
Stanford.
Yeah, they're a little further from the cut line, but they're
Okay.
at least in the conversation.
Like, I guess in the back of my mind, I had them as, very clearly out of the field picture. So maybe that sort of motivational edge is not baked into the line, but that's a stretch. I think Oregon's still the right side.
All right, next game, Matt, we got some mid-major battles, some big ones in the mid-major world. Got Grand Canyon headed to Utah Valley. Now, Matt, I just saw the Antelopes live down in Phoenix last weekend.
Lopes rising.
I don't have an in-person scouting report of Utah Valley, but man, GCU looked pretty bad that game. No one was making shots, either team. So I don't want to take too much away from that particular eye test, but they defended well. They have a lot of size and depth. I mean, they just kind of hit the transfer portal so hard this offseason that Igehan, the Louisville transfer, barely plays. He's like their fourth big man. It's wild. So they've got size, they've got bodies to throw at IMAC inside. I think that's very necessary when you take on Utah Valley. This game's essentially around to pick 'em, indicating Grand Canyon is slightly better. I'm with that. I think that's about right. So I don't have a take here, Matt, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Grand Canyon's slightly better, but this is the WAC, and Utah Valley plays at altitude. And you have to respect home in this conference. So I think the current number at -1, -1.5 is about right. The return of Justin Harmon is a pretty big note for the Wolverines. They don't always have consistent inside-out balance to complement IMAC with their guard play. Harmon has been kind of a steadying presence along with my guy McClanahan and a couple other solid role players that I'm a fan of. In general, the Utah Valley has been very impressive this season. They haven't really regressed as much as I maybe thought they would in conference play. And you're catching Grand Canyon off a hype home spot last week. And I think Utah Valley would be my lean. But like I said, I think the price is pretty sharp.
Yeah, total wise, maybe the under. But again, like there could be some upward regression coming for Grand Canyon and their opponents after that just hideous shooting matchup or shooting night on Saturday. All right, next one, Matt. Morehead State at Belmont. I don't know what to do here. At Belmont, I'm like, okay, last game, revenge for the OVC tournament. They're going to be really angry. And they kind of got controlled. I wouldn't say totally dominated, but Morehead State controlled the game at Morehead. So there's almost double revenge here at Belmont. It feels like a high number for a matchup that seems to play well for Morehead, though. So I'm leaning towards Morehead just because it's hard to ask Belmont to win by that much after they've lost 2 in a row against this team.
Yeah, I agree. Right. I mean, you can underscore the revenge angle all you want, but I just think we've seen this movie before where the matchup is just tough for Belmont to, even with adjustments that they can make, even with that revenge momentum on their side. That's a big number, not 9 to cover against Morehead, who's going to not control the pace, but I think deflate it to a much lower scoring environment than Belmont would probably like. So yeah, I do lean Morehead here. Just the Jonai Broom up front thing is a huge, he takes away, not completely takes away, but limits, neutralizes Muzinski, and that just makes Belmont a lot more mortal. It puts more pressure on their guards. Shepard's been an absolute star this year. Murphy's obviously a stud. Luke Smith can shoot the crap out of it, but it just puts a lot more pressure on them to put points on the board.
Yeah, I think Pat Taylor's got a good point on athleticism. Clearly, Belmont has struggled with that this year, facing
Warren's
that.
Long too.
Luke Smith is tiny. Like he looks like a little kid running out there, and if he's being guarded by a lanky 6'3" wing, he's got a little more issues, and that's kind of the issue up and down the lineup for them. So as great as Belmont is, as great as their execution is, I do think this is a little big, and I like the more athletic team there. Lean towards Morehead. All right, last one on the outline, Matt, before we get back to Chat Mob. We're talking your beloved Bows. Heading out to the island, the last game of the night, Hawaii hosting Long Beach State. And Matt, the first thing you got to look at here is the spot. Long Beach just beat Cal State Fullerton to take sole possession of first on Tuesday. Now, 48 hours later, they're on the island. That is really, really tough travel, really tough turnaround. However, there's a little revenge angle here. Hawaii beat them at Long Beach, the only Big West loss for Long Beach State so far. Do you see the spot playing up better for Hawaii, or do you think revenge is in the offing for Beach?
I think the revenge thing for the Beach was negated by the big one they just got against Fullerton, and the fact that Hawaii did lose both of their mainland games last weekend, both in competitive fashion, by the way. I thought that was a very impressive mainland trip, especially against a very hungry. It was. I mean, because everything that Hawaii does is good.
In at least one of those games.
Right. Well, they did not cover against Riverside, barely did not cover. And then UC Davis was like a 2-point spread. They lost by 3. Both were, they played pretty close to pick'ems. Like they were both very competitive games.
Guess who's against them in both, Matthew?
Jim has picked up the potential inflation of Hawaii's price. Like I love them, but the market seems to have somehow usurped my love for them. And so it's tough for me to back them consistently, but this is a spot where I will be backing them. I think Beach has gotten a little bit overinflated with how they played.
Yeah.
Their reliance to get out in transition to score. They tend to, Dan Monson's recruited a pretty good crop of dudes this season, but it's not a team I trust. And I think Hawaii is a much better coach team. And again, Hawaii at home, playing a team that just has already played 2 games this week and now has to go to Hawaii. I mean, that's a tough ask, man. I think Hawaii catches a sleepy and potentially, inconsistent Beach team here.
Yeah. I think Kai said it pre-show. Beach has covered like 9 or 10 in a row, covered 12 of their last 13. Like they have just been absolutely on fire. This feels like the spot that it doesn't work out for them. So I'm staying away, Matt. And that's probably because I've been lower on Hawaii, but spot wise, man, I totally agree with the Bows. Okay, we got to go back to chat. And I know there are a ton of questions. Again, folks, it's tougher to track without the third guy. So we're doing as best we can. If we miss your question,
give me a break.
Apologize. It's nothing personal. All right, Matt, what do you got for us?
Yeah, Scott H. holding back no punches. You guys ignored my James Madison versus Elon question. Well, hey, Scott, because you whined so emphatically, we will get that first. We apparently
squeaky wheel gets the grease here.
That's right. We reward that type of behavior on this program. But JMU, Elon, Jim, I don't really have any hot takes here. I don't trust James Madison anymore because they are down with Molson going down for the year and Strickland now out. That defense is completely leaky.
It's terrible. They can't stop anyone at the rim. I can't believe how bad their 2-point percentage defense is. I know they don't have a shot blocker, but at least stop the layup line. Do something about that. So I lean towards Elon, Matt. Both teams do have injury questions or injury concerns. Gillen's Butler for Elon is a question mark. I think he's important to them, but these teams have felt closer to even to me recently, especially with the way James Madison defends. So I think it's a little bit too high. I almost took the Phoenix, but then I got spooked because I think both these teams can be erratic, and I did not bet it.
I didn't really think about the total, but it's been bet down 4 points to 142. Just as I quickly look at that, it feels like both teams can score. But I haven't looked, like I said, delve into the pace component there. So I'm not going to officially endorse that. Just a quick reaction as I scanned at the screen here. A lot of questions, like probably 7 or 8 about both Wagner and Bryant, the 2 top dogs in the NEC. And we are heavily invested on our Seahawks of Wagner. Very worried about what they're going to look like without Elijah Ford.
Long-term, not today.
Long-term, not today. Correct. Just to clarify, we're against them today, but long-term, we are hoping they win the conference because we are holding very fat, juicy prices with futures tickets. Jim, pick one of these, break it down. I'll take the other.
All right, Matt, I will leave you the Wagner game. Bryant, I'm very curious how this works out. Charles Pride went absolutely nuts with Peter Kiss out of the lineup. I saw some tweet where people were talking about like, oh, he's probably a top 10 player in the league. And he's like, ain't no way 5 players better than me. So I'm very curious if there's going to be a little clash for the alpha role here with Peter Kiss being reintroduced. I think Hall Aloysius, the big shot blocker, is likely still out. We haven't seen anything official on that. But man, Bryant's just rolling. They're winning game after game after game. It's a shortish spread. Sacred Heart's not that great. So I lean towards Bryant. I think they get the win on the road. I actually did bet that one small at -4.5.
So Wagner, they're hosting Mount St. Mary's. Probably should specify who their opponent actually is. That game's also at 4 p.m. So kind of an early, awkward time slot. That opened at 9, fit bet down to 7.5. So Wagner laying 7.5 against Mount St. Mary's. I find that to be a very, very high number, even at the current price. So you lost a 1.5 of value. I think it's still worth hopping in right now. There's some serious revenge on the minds of Wagner. Mount St. Mary's ended their season. Last year, Wagner has a long history of coming up short in the NEC tournament. It's kind of a indictment on Bashir Mason's otherwise sterling resume as a coach there. So I just think that's going to be fueling them to put the hammer on a little harder than maybe they normally would. But still, I like Mount St. Mary's to cover. I think their size and their competence is good enough to hang within a possession or two.
Yeah, I think they make it tough. Wagner really likes to get to the rim, and this is a team with, like you said, a ton of size, the most size in the league. It's
probably the one team you can't get to the rim consistently against, or it's the hardest to do so.
Yeah, the no Ford thing is interesting. Like Price Noel isn't incompetent. This guy's coming from Pacific. He's a decent forward. It's just a different.
I loved him at Pacific.
They have to figure out a different structure for their offense with him in there.
Yeah, I loved him. Sorry, coming out of high school, he was like one of my favorite, like unsung prospects. So I'm glad he's kind of getting his moment in the sun now. Josh asking about Old Dominion, Middle Tennessee. Old Dominion just got the hurt put on them by Florida Atlantic, but that's been a common occurrence for Florida Atlantic opponents this season. So I don't want to tarnish what ODU's done this year, but I think 5's pretty high. They're catching 5 at Middle Tennessee, Jim. What are you looking at here?
I sort of like the under. The number felt right. Middle Tennessee's been awesome against the number this year.
Yes.
So it's not a team I'm really in any rush to fade, especially with the way Old Dominion played last game. So I don't know. A little bit, towards the under. I think ODU wants to slow it down. Middle Tennessee can play fast, but I think they can be a pace taker at times, Matthew. So I'm hoping that this is a half court crawl type of game.
Next one. This one is just like it. It's just a bait, a hook, line, and sinker is about ready to get me here. I am dying to bet Arkansas +3 at Troy, but Arkansas State. Sorry, yeah, that would be a pretty awesome line if I get Arkansas +3 at Troy.
Yes, it would.
But Scott Cross has worked miracles. Coming back to the Sun Belt after his oust at conference rival UT Arlington. Arkansas State's the more talented team, Jim, but all Troy has done is played solid, good basketball, stingy defense. And at some point, you have to respect what they've done. So I'm going to stay away. I think Arkansas State's the right side here. I think they're the better team. But again, Troy's just been really good.
Yeah, I don't have a side at all in this game, Matt. I am on the total. I am on the over. I think there's going to be points up and down. Arkansas State is kind of an over-y team to me. I think they like to run. So that's the lean. But yeah, I don't know. Nothing strong.
Staying in the Sun Belt, Howie asking about our Cajuns, the Rajuns. Big game tonight. They are hosting. Who are they hosting? I'm already blanking. Texas State. That's right. Yeah. It opened at -1. UL Lafayette. Now it's up to -1.5, -2. Texas State's solid. It seems like a team that I've tended to disrespect the last 2 seasons in general, but Lafayette's good, man. They're getting healthier. They've had all of their horses in the last 2 games. Hard team to trust. They don't they don't protect the ball very well, but they can defend. I think they get this one tonight at home.
Yeah, so I don't have a strong one here. Texas State, like you said, team I haven't probably respected enough. They've been awesome in Sun Belt play. So scared, staying away. Matt, let's go rapid fire for whatever we got left here.
We had 12:37. So Fondell, he's asked about South Dakota State at Denver, New Mexico State at Dixie, and UT Rio Grande Valley at Seattle. Jim, any of those pop into you?
I think on our Saturday action show, Stuckey pointed out how good Denver's been as a home team. They've got one of the best home ATS records out there. So a little bit scared, staying away from South Dakota State there. I do think they're far superior, but not betting that one. The one I like most of this group, Matt, is the over in New Mexico State, Dixie State. I think that ends up being a track meet. New Mexico State's played a lot faster, especially in conference play. I've had a couple winners on their overs, and Dixie State certainly wants to run. So that would be, of those 3 games, my favorite bet. Do you have anything on Seattle, Rio Grande?
Yeah, I kind of like the over in all of them, actually. 2 of these are in the mid 150s, so it seems like a spinny, overly obvious type of play, but just the way Rio Grande or UT Rio Grande Valley refuses to defend. And I've seen Seattle put mega bursts on teams. Yeah. And then going back to the Denver South Dakota State team or South Dakota State matchup, the Denver's playing a little faster this year too, and they got some dudes who can score it. And we know the Jack Bunnies like to take defensive possessions off pretty frequently. So I would be leaning the over maybe in all 3. Scrolling through the chat here. Did we talk about Louisiana Tech and Charlotte 3MW top 10 fan? We did not, Jim. What do you think about Junior Lofton and your boys taking on Charles?
Charlotte's playing really well lately. They've kind of been a fun team for me to back. These are 2 that I'm high on. So I don't actually have a side because I think I'm above the market on both, which just makes me right level with the market for the combination of them. I think this is a little bit of an under game, though. Louisiana Tech played a track meet last time out, burned me on the under. Charlotte, definitely a team that prefers to play in the half court. I think we get a little bit slower matchup here. Charlotte, knowing that they're actually playing a team that's slightly better than them, I think they're more likely to play slow and try to control the tempo.
Yeah, it's been bet down 145 to 141. So I think the market is picking up what you're putting down, Jimbo. Matthew Akers, does South Dakota roll Omaha, as we call them, Jim, because they've been much better at home?
I don't like betting Omaha, Matt. I'm on it small, and it made me want to puke. I have not been doing well with home dogs over the past 2 or so weeks, even though I think they've been solid in general. I've just been picking the wrong ones. So I'm nervous here. South Dakota's got Xavier Fuller back. I thought maybe that would hurt them, but they took a big lead at North Dakota State before blowing it. Nothing for me there. I guess, like I said, I have Omaha small, but not something I want to endorse to the chat mob. We'll put it that way.
All right. Well, you can be a pansy. I'm going to endorse it. This is one of my favorite bets today. I know people think they stink, but you look at their home effort so far in conference play. They beat Western Illinois at home, beat North Dakota at home, lost by 4 to North Dakota State at home, lost by 9 to South Dakota State. Oral Roberts, they lost by 12, but it was competitive. Yeah. It was a good effort, and they beat UMKC. So like they really haven't played any bad games at home, and they're catching 7.5 against South Dakota, or 6.5 against South Dakota, who I think is overrated still. Sorry, Coyotes, but that's where I'm at. So. Omaha, right? It's looking at a few others. Kai trying to he says 6-4 against the spread at home. Kai, I want you to isolate conference games, please, and get back to me on that stat. Jim, a few extra leans. Kai saying he likes Texas A&M Corpus Christi at New Orleans. Any takes there? I guess I like the Privateers, actually. You do?
I think they're pretty good as an underdog. I want to say they're one of the best underdog ATS teams. I can get you that stat in a second. But I also kind of like the over. I think that's track meet. That one gets up and down. The Islanders have been solid, man. I like what Lutz has done there. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, they're 6-1 against the spread as an underdog this year. I think they're good.
I buy that. Josh Garrett asking about San Diego. They are playing St. Mary's. It's opened at 15.5, got bet down to -14. A lot of these St. Mary's prices look high, but I'm telling you, this team's legit. And I know San Diego is a very formidable opponent. I would not be fading St. Mary's under any circumstances. However, I think I lean San Diego, Jim.
Yeah.
It's a big number,
San Diego, but Matt, I just keep betting St. Mary's unders and getting burned. So
this one's been bet up 3 points today, open 126, now at 129. Yeah. I mean, they're just scoring.
Last game, it went over by a point against Loyola Marymount. So it's not like I'm missing big, but I've been getting cooked. I actually kind of hope it's a blowout for my under. I hope it's like 80-40.
Let's get one or two more if you see in the chat popping.
I saw SEMO. Somebody asked about SEMO.
Oh, SEMO. Good call.
Taking on Austin P. Actually, that's going to be coming in best bets, I believe.
It is best bet, right?
Yep. That was Mr. McEwen's best.
That's on the list.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. We'll holster it then. Gonzaga first half from Fat J. I mean, let's not overthink that one. Sure. Why not? Pacific coming off that stupid game at USC, but a hell of an effort. Yeah, they're up at half and took USC nearly to the wire. So now they travel up to the Pac Northwest, take on the big bad Gonzaga Bulldogs. The first half is what I think like 20, laying 20. I would take Gonzaga.
You know what else I like, man?
Demolition.
I like the first half over, and I will just give it away now. One of my best bets is the Gonzaga over full game. I think first half overs are best with Gonzaga because they're just going. And by the time the second half rolls around, they're usually up so big that the last 7 minutes don't have much scoring. So although my best bet is the full game over, I also kind of think the first half over is intriguing.
Kai likes Pacific plus 33. Wow. I don't know if I buy that. All right, Jim, two more here. Montana State, they are hosting Portland State. Line open -10.5, got bet down to -9. Porty State's been really feisty lately. I got Damian Squire back. They've had some decent talent. You look at that roster, like the transfer collection is pretty decent, but Montana State, Danny Sprinkle, feisty at home, great defensively. I think the price is about right. So nothing for me here.
I mean, I don't know how many good games both these teams can play in a row. Montana State especially. They've won 9 in a row in league play. Some of the bigger efforts too, like they beat Weber State at Weber State. I thought it was going to be a letdown at Idaho State, and they crushed Idaho State after that. But Portland State, they had the overtime loss in Southern Utah. Then they've won 4 in a row. I think they're actually pretty legit. Now they've got Squire and they're pressing more. They seem to have found their identity.
Last one. Let's talk Pepperdine San Fran. Our Dons, man, what are we doing? Fellas, we can't lose to Portland. I know Portland's good this year, and we love Legans and love what that program is headed, but now they're laying 18 at home to Pepperdine. So yeah, you can make the angry case, the coaching advantage case. You can make a lot of cases in favor of the Dons. I think 18.5 is a big old number though, so I'm probably not going to take it.
Yeah, it's big, but man, if San Francisco's up 15, I think they can try to win by 30. Matt, they know what the loss to Portland did to their analytical rankings, and those are on the team sheet.
Yep.
That team is smart. They're aware of what that is. If they can win by 50, they're going to try.
Yeah. And BYU applies at LMU too. So if BYU's got LMU on the ropes or, basically got them beat, they're going to continue to step on the pedal there. So
Matt's the sun peeking in. You got a little glow to you now.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. It's coming right there. I need to, my blinds are drawn, Jimmy, or they need to be drawn, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, good timing though. 12:44. We're about to get best bets and we'll sign it off. Who's doing first?
Let's hit best. First is supposed to be Kai. I've got 3 best bets, so I'm gonna let you give Kai's.
Well, I forgot what Kai's is. Let's look at the list here.
Austin
the SEMO Austin
under.
P
Yeah.
under. We don't have a good rationale for him. Give me a number. I think it's 143, 142.
I don't actually have a number. I'm going to get it. I think the rationale is that Austin P has been playing a lot slower lately. They have been definitely an under team. SEMO also played pretty slow last game against SIUE. They were missing 4 of their top 7 rotation guys due to COVID protocol. They could still be out. That's another big one for the under. Kai's saying 141 in the chat as his best bet. I hope I'm nailing the reasoning. There it is. Austin P, 8 straight unders.
8 straight unders. Thank you, Kai, for Johnny on the spot with the rationale. I'll be honest. I had SEMO overs as an auto bet for me as recently as 3 weeks ago, but the fact that they have so many dudes out and a lot of those over games where they were scoring like a combined 200 points, they were losing badly. So it makes sense that they've made a slight correction to how they're approaching basketball. All right, my best bet, just to reiterate, Georgia Southern catching 6.5 at App State, Appetizer State, as I used to call them. Just think it's too many points. Plain and simple. Well-coached team. Again, Sunbelt with this point in the season feels a lot like the MAAC, where the road teams catching 6, 7, and above feel like they're going to be pretty good bets, just, again, in a blanket nutshell. That's all I got. Jim, hammer 'em. You got 3. Carry us today.
Yep, got 3. Already gave, I guess, 2 of them away. Indiana State, along with Pat Taylor. I'm with him. I think that's a great bet. Getting Evansville second game in like 3 or 4 days that they're playing each other. They're not going over 17 from deep again. It's just not happening. Laying a shorter number on the road. I like them there. Pacific and Gonzaga over 154.5. That was the second one. I think that's track meet. Gonzaga's possession counts have been just insane in league play. And while their defense has been outstanding, Pacific did just see USC. So it's not like they're totally going to be intimidated by the size. As long as they hit a few jumpers, I think that over gets there. And the last one is North Dakota State. Last I saw it was +2. They are heading to Western Illinois, a team, Matt, that I think has trended down a little bit in league play. At North Dakota State, I'm stubbornly betting them almost every game. I just think my rating is well above where the market has 100%. Them.
In lockstep with you.
Griesel's been fantastic. They've struggled to cover some spreads at home as a favorite. They have won those games outright, but haven't covered a bigger number. This one, they've just got to win against Western Illinois. I'm happy with that. I don't give Western Illinois much credit for home. Macomb, I've been there. It is not much of a big home venue.
I have to. Not great.
Have you been to the actual gym?
Just driven through the town, Jim. Okay. So the gym stuck out like a sore thumb because not a lot in the town in general. So yeah, I did not go inside though.
I attended a game there. So I can speak to that. I think North Dakota State's got the edge. That's it. North Dakota State +3, Indiana State -4, Pacific Gonzaga over 154.5. That's all our best bets. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We're sorry that we had to sacrifice Kai to the gambling gods to hopefully get some victories, but
a worthwhile price, the iron price to pay. Yep. For winners.
This is good practice for 2-man, Matt, since you're going to be missing a show sometime in the next week or 2 for big travel. So
yeah, the next 2 Mondays, I'll be a game time decision. So I like to kind of keep it sort of up in the air so people can, on pins and needles, the suspense will build.
Monday's a good one to miss. Smaller slate. We can handle the chat.
Yeah, exactly. You guys don't need me. You don't need me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Zach behind the scenes for dealing with the ins and outs of the chat mob there and of Kai going in and out. Thank you to BetRivers. Thank you to Field 68. We will be back again on Saturday at 11:15 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then.